Hey guys, it's Rivian Updates. My name is Isaiah. Something I wanted to touch on was the Rivian RCV. So HelloFresh Factor bought 70 Rivian commercial vans to use for their fleet. I think around 14 cities in the United States, they ship themselves. Kind of like Amazon ships their own packages, HelloFresh ships their own food. And so previously they've been using gas-powered vehicles, and so they are trying to electrify their fleet with Rivian. That is now a quarter of their fleet for delivering packages. They say that they've driven over 250,000 collective miles. So we've actually known that Rivian and HelloFresh have been doing this because we've spotted the vans out in the wild. There was no official announcement. We figured Rivian wants to keep things private, but they've made official announcement, which tells us that we could see more of these. But 250,000 miles driven collectively over those 70 vehicles, an estimated saving of 20,000 gallons of gasoline, and a reduction of CO2 emissions by 200 tons. I want to talk about Ryder. Now, Ryder is the biggest, if not one of the biggest, leasing truck sellers for commercial businesses in North America. Ryder is huge, probably right alongside, I don't think Penske would probably be the other company, but Ryder is huge. And so how this HelloFresh deal works, which I thought was pretty interesting, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it, Rivian isn't directly selling the vans to HelloFresh. HelloFresh is leasing the vans from Ryder, and I guess Ryder bought the vans from Rivian. This could be a situation like a regular Rivian lease. So if you lease an R1T or R1S, what happens is Rivian sells the vehicle at value to Chase Bank, leases the vehicle to you. I have a Rivian lease, they lease it to me. Rivian and Chase have a contractual agreement. Rivian has the opportunity to buy the vehicle back at the end of the lease. And so then they end up with that vehicle. This could be a situation where at the end of HelloFresh's lease, Rivian has the opportunity to buy those vans back. Or it could literally be where Ryder is just buying vans from Rivian, which would be huge news. This would be even bigger. But I think it's probably the first option that they're working with Rivian to lease them, which either or still big news. I think we could see more news about Ryder and Rivian because Ryder leases trucks, sells trucks, and with Ryder's Electric Plus service, where they end up providing infrastructure and advisors and all of the know-how to run an electric vehicle fleet. And so if they have Rivian commercial vans as one of those vehicles that they use, and a lot of companies use, they go right to Ryder, this just opens up the door for Rivian to sell more Rivian commercial vans. Now, technically, this is all speculation, but you know, if you read the end of the article that Rivian and HelloFresh dropped on Rivian's website, at the end of it, that's what it says, that HelloFresh is leasing these vehicles from Ryder from their Electric Plus program. And so clearly there's something going on here. I wonder if we will see a larger announcement in the future. This could even mean for a lot of people that have Ryder locations near them, you could lease an RCV from Ryder and use it for yourself. And so, you know, a lot of companies, they end up leasing. With some businesses, leasing is a more effective way to write off the vehicle, just buying it outright. There's some other tax incentives and pricing incentives and advantages of leasing. And so I think this opens the door overall. But I thought I would put this video out there because I think this is pretty big news. RCV is really their bread and butter. We know they sell those to Amazon en masse. Initially, we saw the agreement with AT&T shortly after Amazon and Rivian ended that exclusivity clause. Originally, Amazon and Rivian built that van together. We saw some other vans from Mevco, which is that Australian mining company. We saw DHL have some wrapped vans. We saw Tire Rack with a wrapped van. USPS, the United States Postal Service, had their own van. A ton of other companies had vans. They were, doing trials, testing them in their fleet environments to see how well that vehicle would fit. And so far, we've only gotten, I want to say one major announcement, and that is HelloFresh. Of course, we've gotten Ben & Jerry's, but that'll probably be like 5 vans at max. It's nothing. HelloFresh on the other end, if they want to expand their fleet, they could likely find Rivian's vans as the main van that they want to use, go forward with Rivian vans. I unfortunately don't think Rivian is doing enough to market the RCV. On the further end, the RCV is very expensive. Let's just say that it starts like $80-something thousand. The trims that are the comparable size. So the Rivian RCV 500 is like 460-something cubic feet of space inside. The 700 is like 600 and something cubic feet of space inside. And so the 500 cubic feet version of the Ford Transit, E-Transit, and the Mercedes E-Sprinter and the Stellantis Ram Pro E-ProMaster. Those are comparative in cost, but they still undercut it by, a couple $1,000s. Now, something I didn't realize until I started editing this video was that the EDV is a lot more expensive than some of its competition. The Ford E-Transit specifically starts at, for the same configuration, I'm talking about similar cargo capacity, similar range, $55,000 for the E-Transit, $80,000 for the Rivian EDV. And so for a fleet that's gonna be buying, many of these at one time, do you wanna spend an extra, $25,000 for a van? I don't know. Now, there are some other features of the Rivian RCV that make it great, like being able to access the storage compartment from inside of the vehicle. Software is a big part of it, being able to have its doors automatically open upon parking. There are some other just parts that make the Rivian RCV dialed in, particularly for delivery work, but it's really expensive. Okay, even the E-Sprinter, which has more range, way cheaper. The Ram E-ProMaster is like $9,000 cheaper for more range and, again, comparable cargo capacity. I wonder how much Rivian can reduce the price of the RCV while still making a profit on it. But just from a business perspective, I want to buy a van that's electric, and I see Ford $55,000, Mercedes $67,000, Ram $71,000, and then you think about the BrightDrop Zevo, which is probably most comparable to the Rivian RCV, and it has comparable cargo capacity. You can also access it from the inside, way more range. That's also cheaper as well. It makes the RCV a harder buy. What do you think? Now we know Rivian, the software, the ease of use. There's a lot of technology that goes into RCV that just makes it an overall a better vehicle, a better package. It does lack in range compared to some of the other offerings. And for fleets, sometimes they just want the dumbest option. You just want something that is simple. A lot of companies already use the Ford Transit vehicles. They already use the Ram ProMaster vehicles. If you get the electric one, nothing has changed. It's comparable range to the RCV, and so it makes the RCV a harder sell. For a company like Ben & Jerry's that wants to, flaunt, and they want to be like, look at our new van, there's nothing exciting about getting an electric Mercedes E-Sprinter or a Ford E-Transit. Getting a Rivian RCV, that's fancy, that's cool. So for some companies, they're gonna wanna get the RCV, and they might find it better for their use case, especially in delivery applications. But I think for a lot of companies, they'll find that the BrightDrop Zevo from GM, the Ford E-Transit might just do them fine, and they're gonna go with that. So I would like to see Rivian do more marketing the RCV, maybe even trimming its price a bit, because you don't want Amazon to be your only, mass provider. And I mean mass, I'm talking about, Amazon ordered 100,000 of them. The exclusivity clause might have lowered that to something else, but we already know Amazon has over 20,000 electric delivery vans from Rivian. You want to find a provider that's going to, buy them in the thousands. You don't want to deal with a bunch of individual customers, which is why it's taken so long for Rivian to sell the RCV to regular people like they are trying to do now. But you want to find that company that will just buy it in huge numbers. You don't have to go one-on-one financing. They just give you a lump sum of cash and are like, here you go, give us all our vans, and it makes things simple. I'm curious to see what Rivian's commercial future looks like, because this could be a big part of their business. If they want to continue to sell their adventure vehicles, the core market, R1, R2, R3, but there is a more profitable side of the business, RCV, semi-truck, other scalable products that could help Rivian expand in the commercial space. Point is, I think Ryder could play a key part in Rivian's growth with the RCV, so we'll see how that plays out. But look, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Isaiah, this is Rivian Updates, and I will see you guys in the next one.